One topic that I see a lot of people confused by is the topic of Roth. What is it? How does it work? You probably have heard that term, but if you're like a lot of folks, you might be confused by what that actually means. So let's talk through what is Roth, who can access it, what does it mean, and it really boils down to taxes now or taxes later. And it's best if we walk through an example in terms of the two different ways to set aside money for retirement. Now, this could be in an IRA, a 401k, 403b. If it has Roth, it's going to look and feel very similar to this because it really just boils down to taxes now or taxes later. And so we'll walk through an example. We're making 50 grand and we're going to set aside $5,000 for retirement. We'll just use some friendly numbers to do the example on. Well, if we do pre-tax, so left side of the chart, we're taxed as if we made $45,000. So because we set aside $5,000 pre-tax, we get this thing called a tax deduction, or it's tax deductible. That's just a fancy way of saying we don't have to pay tax on the money this year. So you lower your taxable income from 50 grand down to 45,000. To put it another way, if we're doing the blue side there, the left side, there's good tax news today because again, we're saving the taxes this year. Now, when we flash forward to retirement, in our example, the money's now grown to be 10 grand. When we ask for the money back to go spend it, that's when we're going to pay taxes. So with pre-tax, we avoid the taxes today, which means logically in the future, we need to pay them. So to put it another way, we're going to avoid taxes now because we're working, let the money grow, and then when we're not working, maybe we'll be in a lower tax bracket, and that's when we'll pay the taxes. So the good tax news comes now, and we have to pay the taxes in the future. Roth, what's the exact opposite? You make 50 grand. It's nice you set aside the $5,000 for retirement, but you're still taxed as if you made 50 grand, which kind of begs the question, well, why would you do that? You would do that because in a Roth, assuming there's some qualifications met, the growth is tax-free. So in our scenario, you put the 5 grand in. True, there's no good tax news today, but when the money's withdrawn in retirement, it's now grown to be 10 grand, you get the $10,000 tax-free. So the good news comes when you ask for the money back. So if you want to pay the taxes now, get it over with, that's called Roth, knowing that in retirement, you have a bucket of money that's tax-free. That's the difference between Roth and pre-tax. It's just taxes now or taxes later. Everything can be the same investments. It can still be with, Raymond James or wherever you invest. It's really just taxes now or taxes later. Generally speaking, the younger you are, the more sense Roth makes, just because you have so much time for that money to grow completely tax-free. I always use the example, we'll pretend for a second that we're farmers. Well, if we have a pile of seeds, Roth is like paying taxes on those seeds. So we're getting the taxes over with. We then go plant those seeds. And then when it's time to harvest in retirement, the harvest is ours tax-free. Because again, we paid tax on the seeds and got it over with. Or to put it another way, we paid tax on this small amount. And then because we were young, we had a long time for that to grow into a really big harvest. And now our harvest is tax-free year by year. So generally speaking, the younger you are, the more sense Roth makes. But again, when we talk on this subject, it's really just taxes now or taxes later. Do you want the good tax news now, or do you want the good tax news when you go to retire? Again, Roth, you're paying it now, getting it over with. And then in retirement, you get the good tax news. Pre-tax, we save the taxes today, which means we have to pay them in the future. If you have questions on this, or you want to chat through anything relating to what I talked about between, again, pre-tax and Roth, I'd love to be a resource for you.